All right, so we talk about the run game with the Texans and my big overreaction. And when you say overreaction, you're kind of acknowledging that it's perhaps an overreaction. It happens in football. That's the beauty of football, is that it's so fluid. The favorite word of Nick Caserio, that what something looks like right now may not be the case next week. It might not be the case next month. And you might just end up completely wrong. But when I say that I don't think the Texans are going to be able to run the ball, it's based on more than the first few days of camp. Like you look at the clues, like the three things that you need to have a good run game. Let's just list what you need to have a good run game. I think there's three things. Number one is you need a good offensive line, probably. You need a good running back, and you need good coaching. And you don't have to have all of it. And there can be other ways to figure stuff out. Joe Mixon was getting yardage last year, sometimes when stuff wasn't even blocked. The coaching was a disaster, and sometimes Mixon was turning chicken-ish into chicken salad. And sometimes the coaching was so stubborn that they were trying to run when they probably shouldn't have. So there's a lot of clues. Like if you go thing by thing here, the offensive line, I don't think anyone thinks this is going to be a really good offensive line. I think if we skip over, it could possibly be very well coached. Definitely better coached than it was last year. I think we would all agree with that and probably make that wager. But then you look at the running backs. There's not a lot of depth at the position. Joe Mixon is starting out the season, and he just turned the age where a lot of running backs, really, really good running backs, and there's obviously examples, they kind of start to fall off, and you kind of need to complement them a little bit better. So none of these three things, the one thing you probably feel really, really good about, you feel good about Mixon, but there is a little bit of skepticism. You don't feel awesome about the offensive line. Maybe you feel better than last year, and we don't know about the coaching. So those are the keys to a good run game. We've been watching this team for a while. So when I say that I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball, that doesn't mean that it's just a lost cause. It means they're going to have to find other ways to move the ball, and they're going to have to find other ways to open up the run game. They're going to have to run it a little bit. And if you look at the Texans' rushing yards per game since 2019, in 2019 they were good. They were ninth. That was the Carlos Hyde season where he broke 1,000. Then they were 31st, 32nd, 31st, and D'Amico arrived with Slowik, and they went 22nd and 15th. So they were middle of the pack in the 2 years with Bobby Slowik. When I say that they're not going to be able to run the ball well, when I hear D'Amico Ryans in the past and I hear Slowik in the past say, well, we're going to have to be able to run the ball. And I've heard a couple of offensive linemen say it as well in their offseason interviews. That's what really concerns me, because I don't think that's going to be the strength of the team. I don't think that's going to be the strength of the team. I think the quick game, I think there's possibility that the quick passing game is good. And maybe if it's not so predictable, maybe they'll be able to surprise some teams. Maybe if they're willing to double team more, like Titus Howard said, then they'll be able to. But to think this team's going to run the ball really, really well, I don't know what that would be based on. I don't know what that would be based on. When we just listed the previous three things, I don't know what it would be based on. Now, does that mean it's some sort of verdict or something like that? No, like it's a lot can happen, but there's no scenario I see where this team's going to be elite at running the ball. And the standard for the Texans, we got to remember this. The standard for the Texans right now is the floor is division title and divisional round. That's what the floor is right now. So you're going to probably have to run the ball at a little bit higher level. I don't know how they do that. I think they have really intriguing receivers. I think they have a good quarterback. We don't know how they're going to be coached, but why would the Texans be good at running the ball? Why is that even like a controversial take? And it's not based on 3 days of training camp. It's not based on that. It's based on what they did in the offseason, what we've seen, and what we need to figure out with this coach. Like when they say square peg round hole, and that's kind of been the rally cry for this offense. When they say, talking about Nick Caley and talking about the new scheme, square peg round hole, they're basically saying you don't try to force the run. You don't try to force something that you're not good at. You don't do that. And I think the context clues that are based on more than a few days, I think they tell you that they're not going to be able to run the ball. So the hope is that they find ways to maybe run it decently, situationally, but to think that they're going to run the ball well, my question would be, what is that based on? And the other thing that I find interesting when we're talking about the Texans and any opinion that you have about training camp is what does too early mean? Like when someone says that it's too early, what can I get like the memo of when it's not too early to have a take about what the offense is going to be? Because that's kind of like the weasel baseball thing, right? Like the hardo baseball fan will basically say that it's too early for 140 games. I'm not saying they're wrong, but my God, what are we even doing? What are we even talking about? But like, when is the right time to say that the Texans might have some trouble running the ball? Like, is it me watching them average 1 yards per carry pretty much in practice? Is it based on an offensive line that even in the best case scenario, if they're in the middle of the league, that gives you a pretty good chance to be a pretty good football team? When is it not too early? Because I need this rule book. I need to figure this out. And I'm obviously being trite because I don't give a rat's ass when it is, but I just find it interesting. Like, is it too early to say that CJ Gardner-Johnson's going to fit into this defense? Is it too early? Because I think he is. Is it too early to say that EJ Speed is going to be a decent reserve linebacker? Too early? Is it too early to say that I think Jalen Nolan Higgins might be good? Is it too early? Like, where is this rule book of too early? And there's a lot more than 3 days to where this team, of clues to where this team might have some trouble running the football. The point is, it's all on Nick Caley. That's the whole point. It's all on Nick Caley. Nick. He's gonna have to find ways to maneuver around what they do well and what they don't do well and make that work. So when I say that I don't think they're going to run the ball well, it's a little bit deeper than just a few days. And it really just comes down to what the hell Nick Caley's going to do. So we'll see how it goes, but I am intrigued. I think there is reason for optimism when it comes to Nick Caley, but I don't think this team is just going to line up and smash opposing teams around when it comes to running the rock, whether they want to or not. The hope is that they know that. Because if Bobby Slowik would have known that last year, they might not have lost to the Tennessee Titans. You remember after they lost to the Tennessee Titans and Bobby Slowik went to the podium and said we expected to run the ball better? Buddy, that's what we were talking about all week, was that was going to be the tough thing to do. They kept trying to do it. So if Nick Caley understands that and he's able to figure it out, that's the hope. That's the hope. So that's what I mean by the run game. But I don't know what the it's too early stuff means.